Welcome to the dark side of gaming. I'm Chilly Vibes, and this is where myths, legends, and eerie stories come to life. Hope you're doing well, because tonight we're diving into even more twisted tales from the gaming world. Some you might recognize, others are much darker and stranger. These legends may even connect to some we've already spoken about, or maybe they'll reveal new horrors lurking beneath the surface. So, without further ado, grab a seat, turn the lights off, and let's begin. The Squall is dead theory has haunted Final Fantasy VIII fans for years. The idea that the main character, Squall, dies early in the game after the pivotal impalement wound in the opening sequence. From there, the entire rest of the story is a dream or hallucination as he fades away in the aftermath. Supporters of this theory point to oddities throughout the game, surreal scenes, characters acting strangely, and Squall's increasing detachment from reality. The theory also suggests that the game's many dreamlike elements, including the recurring motive of death and rebirth, hint at Squall's own death and his soul's struggle. While it's never confirmed by the game's creators, the theory remains a chilling take on the events of Final Fantasy VIII, adding a layer of darkness to an already emotional story. In The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, the Elegy of Emptiness is a haunting piece of music associated with the mysterious statues created by the character Link. Each time Link plays the Elegy of Emptiness, he creates a statue of himself, a lifeless replica that eerily mirrors his movements. What makes these statues so unsettling is the way they're tied to the game's theme of death and loss. Players notice that these statues appear in places tied to tragic events, like the death of a beloved character or the loss of a part of Link's soul. As Link plays the Elegy, it feels like he's summoning versions of himself that will never live, adding a chilling layer to the game's already eerie atmosphere. Many players believe the Elegy of Emptiness represents the irreversible consequences of Link's actions in Majora's Mask, the idea that no matter how many times you try, the past cannot be undone, and nothing can truly be brought back from the dead. Sonic.exe is a terrifying creepypasta that surfaced online in 2011, quickly becoming one of the most infamous and chilling stories in the gaming community. The story centers around a mysterious cursed copy of the classic Sonic the Hedgehog game. The narrator receives the game from a friend, only to discover that it's not the cheerful, fast-paced Sonic adventure he remembers. From the moment the game starts, everything feels wrong. Sonic appears with a menacing bloodshot stare, and the once vibrant world is now a dark, twisted version of himself. The game's characters are either dead or corrupted, and the chilling sense of dread fills the air. As the player progresses, they begin to encounter disturbing imagery, such as Sonic's evil laugh, and an eerie message on the screen, saying, "I am God." What makes Sonic.exe so terrifying is the idea that the game is alive. It's as if Sonic is watching the player, ready to leap out of the screen at any moment. Over the years, many fans have turned this simple creepypasta into a full-blown myth, with various versions of the game and stories emerging, cementing its place as one of the scariest gaming legends. The Third Oracle is a fascinating and eerie mystery that revolves around a supposed never-released Legend of Zelda game that was rumored to be a part of the Oracle series. According to the story, after the release of Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages, tentatively called the Third Oracle, was in the works, but never saw the light of day. Fans began speculating that this game was scrapped, with its unsettling content becoming the stuff of legend. The myth goes that the Third Oracle was far darker than its predecessors. In this game, Link's journey takes him through a mysterious ever-changing world filled with bizarre creatures and cryptic puzzles. The game's most haunting feature was its soundtrack, rumored to include eerie, distorted versions of familiar Zelda melodies, which unsettled players and made them feel like something was off. As the game progressed, strange things began to happen. Glitches, disturbing imagery, and even a version of Link with hollow eyes. While there's no evidence that this game ever existed, the third Oracle legend remains a spooky piece of Zelda lore, captivating fans with its tale of a lost game that was too frightening for release. Pokémon Black is an urban legend surrounding a bootleg Pokémon game that allegedly surfaced in the early 2000s. The myth goes that Pokémon Black wasn't an official release by Nintendo, but a bootleg version created by unknown developers. According to the story, the game cartridge appeared to be a standard Pokémon title at first glance, but once players began to play, they quickly realized something was terribly wrong. The game begins normally with the usual Pokémon gameplay, but as players progress, things start to take a darker turn. The player character is said to encounter strange, unrecognizable Pokémon with eerie appearances, including one infamous Pokémon known only as Ghost, which is said to have an unsettling design. The creatures are described as having hollow eyes and blood-red features, and their cries sound distorted and unsettling. One of the most disturbing parts of Pokémon Black is the events that unfold as players continue to play. NPCs in the game seem to behave oddly, sometimes speaking cryptic messages or disappearing altogether. The player's in-game character is also said to suffer from extreme psychological distress, with their dialogue becoming increasingly erratic. As players progress further, they encounter a final battle against an incredibly powerful opponent, only to realize they have no way of winning. The most chilling aspect of the Pokémon Black legend is its reported ability to corrupt save files and cause real-world glitches in the player's game console. Although no legitimate copies of Pokémon Black have ever been found, the myth of this cursed bootleg continues to haunt Pokémon fans, leaving them to wonder if it was more than just a story. In Super Mario Galaxy 2, players encounter a wide variety of strange, whimsical creatures. However, some believe that a darker, more mysterious entity lurks within the game's code, known as the Shadow People of Hell Valley. These entities are said to be shadowy figures that appear in the Hell Valley sky area, a particularly eerie and haunting location within the game. According to the legend, players can catch glimpses of these shadowy figures lurking in the background of Hell Valley sky, often in the form of dark silhouettes that seem to move unnaturally. They are not part of the game's normal character roster and do not have any clear purpose or explanation in the context of the level. The shadow people are often seen standing motionless or following the player at a distance, creating an unsettling atmosphere that some players say makes the area feel unnatural. Many fans believe that the shadow people are a hidden part of the game's story, perhaps a vestige of a scrapped or forgotten element that was left in the game unintentionally. Others believe they are a deliberate inclusion by the developers to add an eerie layer to the otherwise cheerful and vibrant world of Super Mario Galaxy 2. Some players even claim to have encountered these figures during gameplay, though screenshots or footage are few and far between. The legend of the Shadow People of Hell Valley remains a mysterious and unsettling aspect of Super Mario Galaxy 2, contributing to the myth that some elements of the game may be far more sinister than they first appear. In 1997, Gran Turismo was released and quickly became a game changer in the racing simulation genre. The graphics were groundbreaking and the gameplay was unmatched, but amid the realistic car physics and expansive tracks, players began to notice something strange, something that would soon become a part of gaming folklore. This is the story of the ghost car. The ghost car legend began when players noticed an odd phenomenon while racing on certain tracks like Grand Valley Speedway or Trial Mountain. During their races, a mysterious car would appear in front of them. It wasn't like any normal AI opponent. The car didn't seem to follow any predictable path, and often appeared without a visible driver. Sometimes it would race ahead at breakneck speeds, and other times it would seem to slow down, almost as if it was waiting for the player to catch up. At first, players assumed it was just a bug, a glitch in the game's AI or code. But the strange car continued to appear, and the story grew. As more and more players encountered it, the ghost car went from a minor oddity to a full-blown mystery. Some players began to believe that the ghost car was not just a glitch at all, but a hidden feature, possibly an Easter egg left in the game by the developers. Others thought it could be an unfinished feature accidentally left in the final release. However, the ghost car wasn't just a weird occurrence, it seemed to actively challenge the player. The car's unpredictable movements and mysterious nature led to the belief that it wasn't just a part of the game, it was testing the player, pushing them to be better. Some even said that if you could manage to keep up with it or catch it, you'd be forever haunted by its relentless presence, as if the game had a mind of its own. The legend of the ghost car spread across forums and online communities, and while many dismissed that it was just a story or a bug, others swore that it was real. Could it have been a hidden feature meant to honor the developers, or was it a glitch that players mistook for something more? Some believed that the ghost car was a warning, a sign that there was more to Gran Turismo than just a racing game. Maybe it was the game's way of telling players that there were still secrets waiting to be uncovered. The ghost car might never have a definitive explanation, and maybe that's part of its appeal. Its eerie, mysterious presence in a game otherwise known for its realism is what turned it into a legend. Whether it was an Easter egg, a glitch, or something stranger, the ghost car remains one of the most baffling and unsettling myths in gaming history. So, if you find yourself racing in Gran Turismo, keep an eye on the track. You never know when the ghost car might show up, just out of sight, always just ahead, waiting. In the early days of arcade gaming, there were a few titles that became infamous for their difficulty and potential to cause frustration. However, Berzerk, an arcade game released in 1980, became notorious not only for its challenging gameplay, but for a chilling legend. The idea that the game had a deadly curse that caused the players to die in real life. The myth began when players started noticing a strange pattern. Over the course of several months in the early 80s, there were reports of players suffering fatal heart attacks while playing Berzerk. It was an odd coincidence, but the story grew over time, with many attributing the deaths to the game's intense, fast-paced action, with the stress it caused players. However, the most terrifying part of the legend was the belief that the game itself was somehow cursed or haunted, and that it had a dark, malevolent force that could cause players to suffer fatal health problems, particularly heart attacks. The most famous incident that fueled this myth occurred in 1982, when a player named Jeff Daly collapsed and died after a particularly intense session of Berzerk at an arcade in California. While the official cause of death was later determined to be a heart attack, the eerie timing of the incident led to the belief that Berzerk was cursed. Further fueling the legend, there were other reports of players feeling faint, dizzy, or experiencing heart palpitations after playing the game. What makes the Berzerk curse so particularly eerie is that the game itself seems to have some supernatural qualities in the context of the myths. The game's antagonist, Evil Otto, a creepy, faceless smiley face that relentlessly pursues the player, has become a symbol of the supposed curse. Some players claim that Evil Otto would appear more frequently or in more menacing forms during particularly dangerous gameplay sessions, leading some to believe that the game was somehow aware of the player's health. While there is no definitive evidence that Berzerk was cursed, the myth of the deadly arcade game endures. The combination of tragic coincidences, the intense gameplay, and the unsettling appearance of evil Otto made Berzerk one of the most chilling legends in history of the arcade games, forever linked to the notion of a deadly curse. One of the most eerie myths surrounding the Pokémon franchise involves a mysterious asset that was left behind in the game's early code, the White Hand Sprite. While Pokémon Red and Green were groundbreaking games in the 90s, there were unsettling legends surrounding the unused and deleted content that was found in the game's data, and the White Hand Sprite is one of the creepiest of them all. The story begins with data miners and hackers who explored the code of Pokémon Red and Green long after their release. Deep within the game's files, they discovered a strange and unused sprite that appeared to be a white hand. The hand, with no accompanying explanation or in-game reference, was left abandoned in the game's code, raising questions about its purpose and why it was removed. What made it particularly eerie was the fact that the sprite appeared to have a ghostly quality, as if it were an unsettling entity that didn't belong in the world of Pokémon. Rumors started to spread that the White Hand Sprite was linked to something far darker, a cut, unfinished, or even forbidden aspect of the game. Some believed that it was a placeholder for an abandoned ghost-type Pokémon, or that it was meant to be a part of an early design for the infamous ghost battle that was removed from the game due to its disturbing nature. Others speculated that it might be a remnant of the haunting Lavender Town music or the ghostly encounters that players would face in the Pokémon world, adding to the urban legends surrounding the game. The most popular theory, however, was that the sprite was related to the game's infamous Cursed Lavender Town syndrome. According to this theory, the White Hand was meant to be part of a ghostly encounter that would occur during the game's eerie, unsettling moments, like the music in Lavender Town, and that it was removed due to how disturbing it was. Some even claimed the White Hand Sprite was linked to a deleted Ghost Trainer battle that would have further deepened the spooky atmosphere of Pokémon. If you're familiar with the Buried Alive model we spoke about in Volume 1 of Myths and Legends in Video Games, you'll notice that it shares a connection with the White Hand. The Buried Alive model, which was cut from the game, also has two ghostly white hands, adding fuel to the fire that these deleted assets may have been part of a darker, more sinister element that was never fully realized in the game. The mystery of the White Hand Sprite, alongside the Buried Alive model, only deepens the creepy lore surrounding Pokemon's early development. Although there is no official explanation for the sprite's presence in the code, the legend of the White Hand continues to haunt fans of the franchise. The mystery of this eerie, unused asset only adds to the growing list of unsettling elements that make Pokemon's history so captivating and creepy. Have you ever heard of a creepy, forgotten typing game from the early 90s called Mr. Mix? It's a game shrouded in mystery and horror, and its dark history has become one of the most unsettling gaming urban legends out there. At first glance, Mr. Mix seems like a standard typing game, similar to Mario Teaches Typing, where you help a chef named Mr. Mix place ingredients into a bowl by typing the words that appear on the screen. The game starts off innocent enough with relatively simple word requirements that gradually increase as you advance through the levels. But things quickly take a disturbing turn as the difficulty spikes to an insane level, reaching over 500 words per minute by the 5th level, making it effectively impossible to progress further. The background music is one of the first things that catches players' attention. On the first level, there is a pattern of unsettling growls that get progressively louder, causing early computer speakers to malfunction. By the 3rd level, the music turns into low-quality recording of a hairdryer, and by the 5th, it shifts into a high-pitched ringing that's so loud it can cause real physical damage to the player's ears. But it's not just the sound that disturbs players. The design of Mr. Mix himself is unnerving. He's a large, round-faced man with beady eyes and red spots on his cheeks. As players progress, they report vivid nightmares where Mr. Mix would speak to them in a quiet, raspy voice, threatening them to keep quiet about something, though none of them can remember exactly what. The game quickly gained a reputation for its eerie effects, and the story surrounding it only grew darker. Most of the game's copies were eventually pulled from the shelves, and it faded into relative obscurity until years later when hackers managed to get their hands on a ROM of the game. What they uncovered in the code was far more sinister than anyone could ever imagine. Using memory hacking software, they bypassed the impossible 5th level and discovered something truly horrific. The game crashed violently, writing disturbing files into the user system that were filled with grotesque images of deformed faces, eyes bleeding, skin torn off, screaming in agony. Attempting to delete these files caused the computer to crash completely, sometimes even resulting in irreparable damage to the hard drive. The hackers went even further, removing a key byte from the ROM that triggered the crash, allowing them to access the 6th and final level. However, none of the hackers who made it that far ever spoke about what they saw. They became paranoid, reclusive, and developed severe PTSD symptoms. Within weeks, most of them vanished without a trace. Years later, a man was arrested for attempting to kidnap a young girl, and during the investigation, it was revealed that he was one of the original hackers who had seen the final level. His appearance was bizarre. He wore a white chef's hat and had a look of pure madness in his face. When questioned, he could only mutter one chilling phrase: "I'm Mr. Mix." Shh. Since then, all remaining copies of the game have been destroyed. To this day, no one knows exactly what was in that final level, but it's likely better that way. Mr. Mix serves as a reminder of how some games aren't meant to be played, and some mysteries are better left unsolved. And that concludes today's journey through the darkest corners of gaming history. Whether it's forgotten myths or creepy legends that lurk in the shadows, these stories remind us that not every game is as innocent as it seems. Remember, you never know what's hiding behind the screen. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay in the light.